Hello, friends. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about something that happened in 1977. And the source is an article from the Washington Post, a reliable newspaper from the US. I'll start with a quote from famous historian Howard Zinn, who wrote a book called A People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn. It is taught in some high schools and several colleges as a history book. And he says that if you don't know your history, it's as if you were born yesterday. And if you were born yesterday, you'll believe anything. In his own voice, what he says is,
and here's where a little history comes in. History comes in handy sometimes. If you don't have history, it's as if you were born yesterday. If you're born yesterday, you'll believe whatever anybody in authority tells you. You have no way of checking up on it. Well, a little history might become dubious. A little history doesn't prove that the government is lying to you today. It just asks you to inquire if it is, and then decide for yourself.
so you can decide for yourself. One of the sources I wanted to share is, a lot of people don't believe that there is such a thing as the American Empire. The famous writer and activist from India named Arundhati Roy, who is the winner of the Booker Award for her book, is it Children of a Lesser God? No, it's something similar. Let me look that up real quick. Yes, The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy. So one of the things that she says is, we are all subjects of the American Empire. I think what she means is, by subjects is a nice way of saying that we are enslaved. So a lot of people don't believe that there's such a thing as the American Empire, and that in the last 200 years, on average, the US has been at war every year for the last 200 years. And if it is hard to believe that there is such a thing as the American Empire, you can do a Google search on 800 military bases in 70 countries. And what comes up is, again, a reliable source, Politico magazine, and that's what it says. 800 military bases in more than 70 countries. But now to the article from 1977 by Louis M. Simons. This is an article in the Washington Post. Pakistani alleges US plot. Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto bitterly accused the United States tonight of financing a vast, colossal, huge international conspiracy with his political opponents to force him out of the office. The reason for the alleged conspiracy, Bhutto told a joint session of Pakistan's National Assembly and Senate, is that the US could not forgive him for failing to support the US role in Vietnam and also because he supported the Arab cause against Israel. The rambling 1 hour and 45 minute speech delivered without notes from the floor of the assembly chamber was marked by outbursts of fist-shaking rage against the US, which he termed an elephant which does not forget or forgive. The Prime Minister's allegations, to which he referred repeatedly, marked the sharpest Pakistani attack on the US since the Ford administration blocked France's plan to sell Pakistan a nuclear processing plant last year. Former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, who met with Bhutto in Lahore, the Punjab provincial capital last year, Kissinger said the two governments were trying to reach a compromise. The Ford administration indicated, however, that if Pakistan went through with the purchase, it risked losing US economic aid, which has totaled $4.9 billion since 1952. Bear in mind, Pakistan was created in 1947. So 5 years after that, 1952, since then, the US was providing economic aid, but that aid comes at a price, of course. But back to the article, renewed negotiations with the Carter administration are pending. According to a foreign ministry source, Secretary of State Cyrus Vance has written to Bhutto proposing that the discussions resume as soon as possible. A US embassy spokesman refused to comment on two specific claims Bhutto made. One was that a US diplomat protested to the foreign ministry earlier this week over a demonstration in Islamabad by Bhutto's Pakistan People's Party, in which marchers shouted Jimmy Carter Murdabad, which Bhutto said could not be translated as either death to or down with, which Bhutto said it could be translated as either death to or down with. The other claim was that a US diplomat in a telephone conversation with one of his colleagues on April 12th allegedly said of Bhutto, "The party's over, he's gone," evidently meaning that the opposition would succeed in ousting the premier. "Well, gentlemen," the premier said to Cheers, "the party is not over." So this is what Bhutto said, the party's not over. The State Department strongly rejected Bhutto's charges, calling them groundless. The US government has neither the desire, this is a quote, "The US government has neither the desire nor the state, nor the reason to make any effort to support the Prime Minister's opposition or to interfere in the political process in Pakistan, and it has not done so," close quote. A State Department statement said. Undersecretary of State Philip C. Habib protested to the Pakistan embassy, a spokesman said, and the US embassy is to express US concern to the government in Islamabad Friday. The Prime Minister did not indicate how he came to know of this alleged telephone conversation. 2 weeks ago in a news conference, he told a correspondent of Newsweek magazine that he had read his recent dispatch. The correspondent later said the report had not been published. All correspondence, telegraph, and telex messages are known to be monitored by the government, but foreign reporters have not yet been subject to the censorship imposed on Pakistani news media. The US embassy spokesman, when asked if embassy personnel assumed that their telephone conversations were tapped, said, "When we are in foreign countries, we usually assume that the communications systems are not secure." Bhutto, who is 49 who has been under severe physical and psychological strain for nearly 3 months as a result of vigorous campaigning and trying to cope with the opposition's concerted attacks on him, appeared to lose his train of thought as he spoke. His voice broke frequently. Bhutto has recently begun taking sedatives to help him cope with the strain, informed sources in Washington said. Some political observers had anticipated that he would use the speech to announce some sort of compromise with his opponents, who have organized violent demonstrations in cities throughout Pakistan since Bhutto won an overwhelming victory in national elections on March 7. I believe that's 1977 also. As many as 300 persons have been killed by police and military forces, and martial law has been imposed on 3 cities. I believe the opposition at that time was called the 9 Stars, Nau Sitare, in which I remember Maulana Maududi was also even in it. And I remember the demonstrations in Lahore in my neighborhood also, which were speeches by this coalition, which had gathered up a lot of parties to get rid of, to overthrow the Prime Minister Bhutto. Back to the article. Bhutto made no gestures to his opponents organized under the green banner of the 9-party Pakistan National Alliance. There it is, Nau Sitare. Bhutto made no gestures to his opponents who are organized under the green banner of the 9-party Pakistan National Alliance. All the top leaders of the alliance are being held in a police guest house 12 miles from here. A junior alliance official said tonight that the leaders were listening to Bhutto's speech, carried live by the government radio and TV networks. I cannot speak as a spokesman for the PNA, said the official, Hassan Mahmood. But he has accused us of being Western agents and receiving huge amounts of foreign money. We had expected him to make some sort of offer to settle the troubles. Now it appears he has totally changed his approach. So this is a representative, an unofficial representative of the 9 Stars coalition, who expected Bhutto to make some gestures toward compromises with this this group of opposition parties, but Bhutto didn't. So back to the article, the Prime Minister told the joint sessions that there was no parallel anywhere in the world of the vast amount of money the US allegedly passed to the opposition. Figures commonly heard in Islamabad diplomatic circle gossip range up to $25 million. So this is what Bhutto was saying, that at that time in 1977, about $25 million was pumped into the opposition parties to get them to overthrow Bhutto's government. It is a secret the amount of funds which have flooded into Pakistan, Bhutto asked the assembly. The way people have been bribed, the postman, the milkman, the man who comes to your house to read your meter, that's your gas or electric meter and so on, water meter. The man who comes to your house to read your meter, all have been bribed to attend opposition rallies and support them. Although he conceded that wealthy Pakistani industrialist families, the so-called 22 families, whose vested interests had been nationalized by the 6-year Bhutto government, who they had also helped finance the opposition. The premier said that these families do not possess the vast sums required to fund the opposition. I tell you, this is not a basic PNA conspiracy, he said. This is an international conspiracy. As evidenced, he noticed that last week's general strike in Karachi and several other industrial cities was called a wheel jam, a Paya Jam Hartal, by the labor unions that organized it, suggesting that the wheels of industry were jammed. So the article ends there, but it is very similar to what's happening in Pakistan right now, that all of the opposition parties have been joined together in an alliance, and they overthrew the government of Prime Minister Imran Khan. And Imran Khan, similar to Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, is saying that this is a foreign conspiracy, that the US is behind it, and the US has spent millions of dollars funding the opposition to motivate them to oust the prime minister. And they were successful. They were able to oust the Prime Minister Imran Khan through a vote of no confidence. But one of the things which is not similar to Bhutto is that when Bhutto was overthrown, then a military dictator by the name of Ziaul Haq took over, and then Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was put on trial, and he was hung in the middle of the night. And I remember that day, I was walking back from school, and there was, I think it was a boy who was handing out, these articles from the paper. It's like what you see in the old movies where, a kid is saying extra, extra, read all about it. It was very similar to that. And he handed me this pamphlet that said, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto has been hung. And it was shocking. It was, I couldn't believe it, but it was true. So those are the kinds of things that have happened in the past in Pakistan. And this article is very relevant because in 1977, which is what, 23 plus 22 years ago, 40, 22 plus 22, 44, 45 years ago. So this has been going on for 45 years. If we count what happened in 1977, the overthrow of democratically elected leader of Pakistan, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. He had his own flaws, but as far as conspiracies to overthrow governments, that's what we're talking about right now. But this is not just the last 45 years. This interference and control of Pakistan started back in 1947, and when Pakistan was created, and that was 53 plus 22 years ago, 75 years ago. So in that long history of 75 years, there's a lot of military dictators. And whenever there is a military dictator in power in a developing country around the world, we know who is behind it. And, for decades, the top military leaders and the top police leaders of various developing countries were brought to the School of the Americas, and they were trained over there. This is also part of history. But it is very sad to see that developing countries are not allowed to develop, and the leaders who want to serve the interests of their own people are taken out, and other rulers are installed, and those rulers are corrupt, and they do not represent the interests of the local people, and instead they represent the interests of their bosses, who are the US policymakers. Unfortunately, this is the sad truth, which we can verify from many sources. So hopefully the people of Pakistan will be able to truly have their independence and be able to re-elect Imran Khan, because the current people in power, the Nawaz Sharifs and his brother Shahbaz Sharif and his son Hamza Sharif, and of the PMLN party, and also, they are in alliance with Pakistan People's Party, with the Zardaris and the Bhuttos who run that party. So these party leaders are very corrupt, and they have been accused of stealing billions of dollars, bankrupting the country. And they take those billions and they store them in offshore accounts, or Dubai, or in London. And the country is bankrupt, and remains in billions of dollars of debt, because the treasury has been ransacked and robbed by these people. And these are not just accusations, they have many cases against them in court. What's very disturbing is that the International Criminal Court of the United Nations can easily make a law that corrupt rulers like this cannot take the money, cannot loot the treasury of a country and take the money into another country and steal from a whole nation. And what's very hard to believe is that in this international banking system, where especially since after 9/11, we hear that you can't move even $5,000 or $10,000 from one country to another without the FBI and many other intelligence agencies knowing. And the banks keep track of that money. How is that money laundering being taking place without law enforcement authorities knowing about it? So it's hard to believe that they don't know about it. Do they turn a blind eye, or in the case of London, it is known that they welcome corrupt people to bring their money and put that money into the banks of England, which helps the economy of England. So unfortunately, what this means is that Pakistan is still colonized. The British ruled the region of India and Pakistan, the South Asian region. The British ruled it for 200 years. And although they were kicked out in 1947, but they remain in various ways in control of the destiny of, I think Pakistan is around 250 million people or so. And similarly, what is also said is that when the British left Pakistan, America took over. So Pakistan became a client state of the US. So these are the sad realities and the injustices that are going on in our name. And I hope that US foreign policy will change soon. And when Noam Chomsky was asked about what should be the US foreign policy, he said, similar to the Hippocratic oath that doctors take, he said, first of all, do no harm. And that would, that would be justice, and that would be allowing other people to be free, and that would be the policy of live and let live. And I hope I live to see. I hope I live to see that day when there are no wars, and when the US does allow developing nations to be free, so that we can all live and let live. Thank you, and until next time, take care.